welcome to the Legal Lounge here on CRN Digital Talk Radio, CRNTalk.com, streaming live coast to coast and around the world on CRNTalk.com. I'm joined, as always, by the one and the only, an active attorney, U.S. Army veteran, Juris Doctorate in law, undergraduate degree in physics, and author of a book that has proven to be a guideline for the Supreme Court now and in the future. That book, America: An Illusion of Freedom, is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and on iTunes. You can check him out on AIM-870 The Answer. It's Mr. Richard Nixon, and the show that gives you the news you get nowhere else. How are you, Richard?
I'm just fine, Mike, and you've been spending quite a bit of time, you and your research staff, coming up with some very interesting cases. I wasn't aware of these till our show prep today. One of them, of course, basically says that the divided D.C. Circuit panel nixes Judge Boasberg's criminal contempt order against Trump. So this is a pro-Trump decision. So that's good. We're going to get into that again. And also we have a case out of Michigan. Michigan's highest court very briefly says that they dealt with another blow to the practice known as home equity theft, which is further chipping away at the state's ability to take people's homes and keep the profits when owners accrue modest tax debts. A little old lady owes $800. She ends up having her house taken from her that's worth $300,000. They sold it, She didn't get a dime.
Yeah, we talked about that a couple of years ago when Tyler versus Hennepin County case. We talked about that. A Minnesota woman who lost all her condo and all of the equity over, like a $2,000 tax debt.
Correct.
And it seems that Michigan is kind of trying to skirt the law here, skirt the precedent in Tyler v. Hennepin County, because instead of auctioning off the home, keeping the equity, and putting it directly into the city coffers, what they're doing is they're transferring these homes to nonprofits.
Yeah.
And then nonprofits then sell that. And so there's got to be something, some kickbacks going on there.
The nonprofits made a profit.
Richard, they always do. Don't even get me started on the nonprofits. And going back to the case of the D.C. Circuit, of course, that's Trump v. JGG. And this is out of the D.C. Circuit. And this is interesting because we've seen the D.C. Circuit, a couple of new appointees. President Trump has appointed some new members. And we're maybe seeing the D.C. Circuit go the way of the Ninth Circuit, a little bit more fair, a little bit more rounded.
D.C. Circuit, you know who's on there now, don't you?
Who's on the D.C. Circuit?
I think Miss Perot that used to be on Fox.
She's actually now the Miss Janine Pirro.
That's right.
She's actually now the DA, the federal prosecutor for the Southern District of New York, I want to say.
Oh, it was New York?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I thought it was D.C.
Yeah, well.
Okay.
She's quite nice. We like her. She's a friend of the show. But I think this
Mike, I'm going to bet you a dinner on that. I think it's D.C.
All right. We'll take a look.
I'm pretty sure.
We'll take a look at that during the break at the crack research
She was saying they do not deserve to be coddled. They've got to be imprisoned.
Mm-hmm. And this is very interesting, this no contempt for executive branch using executive powers.
Yes.
I think that's kind of related to the Supreme Court case regarding presidential immunity as well. So we got a big show. We're going to talk a lot about a very interesting article written in the Daily Journal vis-a-vis birthright citizenship. We're also going to talk about another birthright citizenship issue out of the Ninth Circuit. Very fascinating dissent by a friend of the show. We're going to talk about green cards, tariffs, and the big, beautiful bill. So stick around, you guys. We're here in the Legal Lounge. Richard Nixon Live. Stay with us.
Hi, everyone. Tom Mustin here for the Legal Help Center. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up, because we have legal professionals standing by right now to answer your questions for free. You'll find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-745-9090. That's 800-745-9090. The call is free, the consultation is free, and you can speak with a live agent right now. So, if you or someone you know were injured in an accident, like a car accident or slip and fall, call now to find out if you have a case and how much money you could potentially get. 800-745-9090. That's 800-745-9090. Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
And we're in the Legal Lounge, and our fact checkers just came in here, and our friend of the show, Janine Pirro, is actually now the U.S. attorney for the district of the D.C. district. So U.S. attorney. So
she's going to get them kids.
She is.
Them away.
She is.
Because she said they don't need coddling. What the bad guys do is they'll purposely take a 13, 14, or 15-year-old, give them a gun, and say, let's rob a liquor store. And the kids do it, and what does the judge do? He gives them 5 days at home.
Yeah, and then their record expunged at age 21. No one's ever the wiser. So, yeah, charge those kids as adults. Violent crimes, if you're an adult enough to do a violent crime, you're adult enough to do the time.
Absolutely.
All right, the Daily Journal, once again, has gone a little bit hog wild here with an article written by an interesting gentleman. His name is Roderick E. Waltson. He's the counsel for Best, and Krieger LLP. And he wrote an article titled Birthright Citizenship for Children of Undocumented Immigrants, an Unsettled Constitutional Question.
Yes, and it's in two parts. So we only have time to discuss the first part of this fantastic article. Mm-hmm. I kind of say that tongue-in-cheek because this is one of my favorite subjects, this birthright citizenship. And I feel myself qualified to nitpick everything he says in this article. Some things are good and some things are absolutely wrong. Let's start with the wrong one. He says,
please do.
The Citizenship Clause of the 14th Amendment of the Constitution declares that all persons born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are U.S. citizens. Several commentators have argued, and some courts, that's not true, that courts have held that the clause confers birthright citizenship on children of undocumented immigrants. Well, that's not true. There is no such court that has found that this clause confers birthright citizenship on the children of undocumented immigrants. Now, the next thing that I find offensive, if you will, is he goes on to say that because such children are subject to the jurisdiction of state laws. Now, this shows a total, absolute misunderstanding of the word jurisdiction within the 14th Amendment jurisdiction clause, and what the jurisdiction means, what jurisdiction they're considering in the 14th Amendment Citizenship Clause is what they call political jurisdiction as opposed to territorial jurisdiction. Territorial jurisdiction simply means that if you go over to Japan and you're present in Japan, you are subject to their rules. No one argues that. Same thing is true if someone comes over here, legally or illegally, you are bound by our traffic rules and so on. All our laws apply to you because you're here. However, the 14th Amendment Citizenship Clause only talks about political jurisdiction. What does that mean? That means that we're not concerned with the power that the state can impose on the person. It's what view does the person have regarding their loyalty or allegiance to this country. That is to say, when you have a child here, if you are a citizen, a permanent legal resident, etc., in other words, if you're pro-American, so to speak, that child's being born here is probably a citizen. However, if you're here as a foreigner, if you're here as an alien, not from Mars, but from some other country, that child being born here is not a citizen. So that is the problem. And again, what the left does all the time, when they read and any person born here, all persons born here and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens, when they treat and subject to the jurisdiction thereof as equivalent to saying, if you're born here, you're a citizen.
Yeah, and automatically, if you're on these shores, if you're walking around on the great lands of the United States, then automatically you are therefore under the jurisdiction thereof, which is patently false because this has been addressed in several other cases, specifically involving Native Americans.
Okay, what I'd like to on our next go around is discuss, unless we do it now.
Let's do it. Bring it.
Okay, so the way that the left views this is that if you're born here and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, they simply ignore that and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And they read the 14th Amendment Citizenship Clause to say, all persons born or naturalized here are citizens. Okay, what does that mean? That means that what the people who interpret it that way have done is they have decided that the words "and subject to the jurisdiction thereof" are redundant, are unnecessary. Now, we have to know when we even people who graduated from Harvard know that there are what are called canons of statutory interpretation. We attorneys, judges, justices, we learn how to interpret the law, so to speak. And one of the statutes that we have to go by, one of the rules of construction, so to speak, or canon of construction, is the following. A statute should be construed so that, on the whole, no clause, sentence, or word is rendered superfluous, void, insignificant, or unnecessary. Now, in essence, what I'm saying is, if the left is correct and they read the citizenship clause saying that if you are born here and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, that's one and the same thing. In other words, they look at the citizenship clause as if you're born here, you are automatically a citizen. So what have they done by interpreting it that way? They have rendered "and subject to the jurisdiction thereof" clause as redundant, superfluous, void, unnecessary. And that is an interpretation that the rules of canon, rules of statutory construction, do not allow us attorneys, judges, and justices to do. We must, since we must account for what "and subject to the jurisdiction thereof" means, we must now research what that means, and that'll come up next.
Yeah, so let's move forward and talk about what that means. Well, let's just briefly wrap up this segment and go to the next one, and then we'll get into the actual intent of the 1868 Citizenship Clause and the Civil Rights legislation in 1866, which was a precursor to the Citizenship Clause of the 14th Amendment. But just to review here, Mr. Roderick E. Walton, I'm sure he's a very nice man. I mean, his argument's all over the place here, because he says some courts have held that the clause confers birthright citizenship on children of undocumented immigrants because such children are subject to the jurisdiction of the United States law. Those things are not necessarily true at the same time, just as you said. Also, he didn't cite any particular cases here. He also says that, respectively, the Supreme Court adopted the view he holds more than a century ago in the United States versus Wong Kim Ark, which I think both you and I believe was patently wrongly decided.
Absolutely. And again, I don't know if I explained it properly, but my point was, or is, that when we read the clause, "all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens," if we read it that way, the following way, "all persons born or naturalized in the United States are subjects," and that are citizens, that is the way the left in this country views this. That means that "and subject to the jurisdiction thereof" is unnecessary. It's redundant. Now, we just got through reading one of the canons of construction that we attorneys and lawyers are bound by, and one of them is a statute should be construed so that, on the whole, no clause, sentence, or word is rendered superfluous, void, or insignificant. So we cannot interpret it that way. So what does that mean?
Yeah, we're going to tell you what that means right after this break. Stay with us.
What are the most important issues facing people in California? Inflation and crime. Hi, Aaron here. We at California Deluxe Windows addressed both. We are making beautiful energy-efficient custom-fit windows right here in LA, saving on waiting time and the cost, so it beats inflation. And our security features are unlike anybody else. Steel-reinforced frames, metal cumlocks, night latches made from Lexan, almost unbreakable, like a football helmet, interlock, and more. This is our deflation security cell with 30% discount on top of it. And our installation is so precise, we do not break your stucco. Your house can be covered with potato chips and we wouldn't crack one. Call us 866-988-5100. 866-988-5100. 866-988-5100.
CSLB 774518. Some restrictions apply. Savor the past and savor the glory days of Las Vegas. Enjoy 70 years of true Las Vegas history as 4 generations of family wait to greet you at the legendary Bootlegger Italian Bistro. Wine, dine, and experience Mama Maria's award-winning original recipes while surrounded by original family photos and celebrity memorabilia. Enjoy piano artistry nightly with music from the Great American Songbook in our main formal dining room. The Bootlegger Italian Bistro, 7700 Las Vegas Boulevard South. In the entertainment capital of the world, the Bootlegger Italian Bistro, open 7 days a week. 7700 Las Vegas Boulevard South, in the entertainment capital of the world. It's Vegas, baby.
Are you ready to make a difference for the environment while helping the visually impaired at the same time? Then donate your vehicle to Heritage for the Blind today by calling 800-785-9618. Every donated vehicle will either be properly recycled in an eco-friendly manner or given a new life through reuse. Donating your vehicle is easy. Simply call 1-800-785-9618 and Heritage for the Blind will do the rest. They'll even arrange for your vehicle to be picked up at no cost to you. And for a limited time, when you donate your car, you'll receive a $200 restaurant voucher and a 2-night, 3-day hotel stay at one of 50 locations. Call 800-785-9618 right now to schedule your tax-deductible vehicle donation and make a positive impact on the environment while helping others. Heritage for the Blind, where every car donation counts and every person makes a difference. Call 1-800-785-9618 now.
And we are back in the Legal Lounge. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. We really appreciate it. As always, all past and previous sessions are available on YouTube and Rumble. Find CRN Digital Talk on both those platforms. Also, as a podcast at crntalk.com/podcaster. All right, Richard, we were talking about the rules of construction before I briefly cut you off. And so go ahead, please finish that point.
I'm going to kind of repeat it again if I can. What it simply means is this, that when we are reading something, these are legal documents now, statutes, constitutions, propositions. When a judge or an attorney or a justice is reading something that, legal documents that someone else has written, of course, we assume certain things. Number one of them is what we just read, that the writer did not put anything in that law that is unnecessary. So when we read what he wrote or what she wrote, we assume that everything was necessary there. So we cannot simply interpret it as the left does by saying, oh, well, all that means is all persons born here are citizens. No, you must account for the words and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. So when we do a little research, what happens? Well, we find out that in 1868, Jacob M. Howard of Michigan, he was a senator from Michigan in 1868, and he was one of the fathers of the citizenship clause. And what did he say that it meant in those days? He said, persons born in the United States who are foreigners, aliens, or who belong to families of ambassadors or foreign ministers are an exception to the rule that all people born here are citizens. So that means that if all people born here are citizens except for persons born in the United States whose parents essentially are foreigners or aliens or who are of families of ambassadors. In other words, the point is this, that we must interpret what that meant, that is, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And what it does, it excludes certain people from their, if they're born here, from their child being a citizen. And to include that, that's what Senator Howard said. Now we went a couple years later, this was 1868. 1872, we have a case called In re Slaughterhouse case, which basically said, subject to the jurisdiction was intended to exclude from its operation children of ministers, consuls, and citizens or subjects of foreign states born within the United States. And then in 1884, we have another issue, the same issue. The evident meaning of these last words is not merely subject in some respect or degree to the jurisdiction of the United States, but completely subject to their political jurisdiction and owing them direct and immediate allegiance. That's the critical part. Owing them direct and immediate allegiance. That is to say that the parents owe allegiance to this country before their child being born here will be considered a citizen.
Yeah, and another point that he said, Mr. Walton brings up, this article, this is one of the points that we do agree
Yes.
with. He says,
Yes.
rather, this article, the Supreme Court's Wong Kim Ark cases and other cases have not conclusively resolved the issue, and therefore the court could conclude the citizenship clause does not confer such birthright citizenship without overturning any of its precedents.
Exactly. So I'm hoping that's what will be the case here, that rather than battling over what it means, we simply go by the existing authority, with the exception of Wong Kim Ark, which, according to Mr. What's his name?
Roderick E. Walton.
Yeah. According to him, he has a second article, which we will be talking about next week, which will be discussing Wong Kim Ark.
Mm-hmm. We're going to get into that extensively. Also, right here, he says, immigrants who enter the United States in violation of its immigration laws are sometimes referred to as illegal immigrants, and
Yes.
sometimes as undocumented immigrants.
Yes.
Which term do you prefer, Richard?
I prefer the one that's used in the federal statutes, which is illegal alien. Now, again, people like to be cute. By alien, we do not mean somebody from Mars. We mean somebody from another state or another country, frankly, another country. And alien simply means that they are not citizens or nationals of the United States. That's all. It's not a pejorative. It simply says that you're not an American citizen or national. And so if you're here and your wife you have a baby here, that baby, because the parents are not citizens, are not permanent legal residents, that baby is not a citizen.
We're going to talk about the congressional debate surrounding the Citizenship Clause, the Civil Rights Bill of 1866, which then was morphed into the Citizenship Clause of the 14th Amendment
Yes.
in 1868, right after this next break. Make sure to check out Richard's fantastic book, America, An Illusion of Freedom. It's available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, and on iTunes. And if you vets out there who knew Richard during his time of service in the United States Army or as a contractor in the Republic of South Vietnam, give us a shout here at the office, info@CRN Talk, because we want to connect you guys. Stick around. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
From basement podcasts
Is this thing on?
to social media.
I'm so funny.
These days, it seems like just about anyone can share their 2 cents. But with so many voices out there, who can you trust? Well, how about LA's first and longest running talk station? For over 60 years, AM 790 KABC has been the trusted source of news and information for Southern Californians from San Diego to Santa Barbara and beyond. With powerhouse hosts like John Phillips, Randy Wang, Armstrong and Getty, Frank Motek, Guy Benson, and Vince Colonnese, you can rest assured you'll receive the news of the day with honesty, insight, truth, and above all, facts. On air on AM 790, online at KABC.com, and on the go with the free KABC app for news talk you can depend on. Trust us. Fast-paced, fact-based, AM 790 KABC.
1 out of 2 Americans thinks their life is worthy of a book. Here's another startling stat. You may be one of the 15% of people who bothered to start your book and one of the 6% that got halfway through it, but your gem of an idea likely died. Or did it? Some published authors are making significant money, so join the ranks of the successful people that finished their books with help from Dorrance Publishing. Call right now and our experienced editors and writers will explain to you what it's going to take to get your book completely written, published, and then taken to market to sell it. It's a free consultation, so call right now. Find out how much time and money it takes to finally get that book idea of yours published. Make your dreams happen. Call Dorrance Publishing right now.
800-786-1468. 800-786-1468. 800-786-1468. That's 800-786-1468.
Are you annoyed, angry, or maybe there's another word you want to use about where your tax dollars are going? Let's face it, the government does a terrible job of managing money, especially when it's yours and mine. Tax dollars are being wasted, and all the government does is have their hand out for more. So what do? They send you, the tax-paying American or business owner, a letter saying you underpaid your taxes, and you owe us a lot more. Don't laugh and don't cry. Call the Tax Resources Network now. Their trained experts can help negotiate between you and the IRS and take all the stress off your back. And if you're lucky, save you a boatload of tax money. So before you think about calling the IRS, if you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes or you haven't filed in a while, call us right now.
888-816-7701. 888-816-7701. 888-816-7701. That's 888-816-7701.
It's time to rediscover Ka'anapali Resort on Maui. Goodbye stress and work. Hello paradise and fun. Restaurants, hotels, golf, spas, hiking, shopping, activities of all kinds, or just lounging on the beach and listening to the waves. Visit Ka'anapaliResort.com, KAANAPALI Resort.com. Ka'anapali Resort on the west side of Maui.
Hi everyone, this is Ron Say. I played baseball for the Los Angeles Dodgers, Chicago Cubs, and Oakland A's. My Dodger teams won 4 National League pennants and a World Series. Now I am tackling a new challenge. I am hosting a new sports show called We'll See About That. We will look at the aspects of sports, baseball, football, basketball, hockey, soccer, and much more. Plus, you will be able to get my honest opinions on the big stories of the day. Join me for We'll See About That, Saturdays at 11 a.m. Pacific Time right here on crntalk.com.
And we are back in the Legal Lounge. Make sure to check out Richard's fantastic book, American Illusion of Freedom. It's fantastic. It's available on Amazon.com and, of course, on iTunes. 4th edition is coming. And, Richard, real fast before we get into the kind of sort of the history of the debate, congressional debate surrounding the Citizenship Clause, 14th Amendment, and the Civil Rights Act that preceded that.
Right.
The Citizenship Clause, or the automatic citizenship, even if someone wants to disregard the subject of the jurisdiction thereof, there's some differences between that and Trump's EO, correct?
Well, yes, because what the left is saying is that any child that's born here, period, is a citizen, regardless of the nature of their parents, whether they be MS-13 gang members or whether they are both priests. In any event, that is the position of the left. Mr. Trump's position, however, his EO basically says the following, that if the mother is here illegally, and she meets or has a baby, and the baby's father is either a citizen or a permanent legal resident, that child is a citizen. Now, I should just comment on the fact that I don't agree with that. I don't like it, but that's part of Mr. Trump's EO. The other part of his EO is this, that you have the mother here legally, but only temporarily, like on a visa and so on. If that's the situation, and the same thing, if she has a baby and the father is either a citizen or a permanent legal resident, again, that child's being born here is a citizen. And again, I disagree with both of those.
Yeah.
I think that, I don't know why we want to allow women who are here illegally or women who are here only temporarily to give birth to what we would call a citizen.
Okay, let's go back to the congressional debate surrounding the Citizenship Clause. Of course, this was shortly after the Civil War, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, all concerning the reunification of the Union and what to do with now freed people. And the 14th Amendment, including the Citizenship Clause, was approved by Congress, ratified by the states, and became part of the Constitution in 1868. As the congressional debate made clear, the Citizenship Clause was intended to overturn the Supreme Court's infamous Dred Scott versus Stanford decision in 1857, which held that slaves were not citizens of the United States. To that end, the Citizenship Clause constitutionalized the Civil Rights Act of 1866. And you've spent a lot of time and study, Richard, going through the background, the intent of the legislators at that time. What's your analysis here?
Well, what's interesting that many people don't call this to our attention, but the people that wrote the Civil Rights Act of 1866, they're the same people who wrote the 14th Amendment.
Yeah.
They're Congress. That's who writes this stuff. Mm-hmm. So the point I'm getting at is as you said, the Citizenship Clause constitutionalized the Civil Rights Act of 1866, which was adopted shortly after the Civil War, which provided that all persons born in the United States and not subject to any foreign power are U.S. citizens. Now, doesn't that ring a bell? Doesn't that sound like the 14th Amendment as it exists now, 14th Amendment Citizenship Clause in the Constitution? The principal authors of the Citizenship Clause stated that the clause was simply declaratory of the Civil Rights Act and did not include persons born in the United States who are foreigners or aliens. This comes from Senator Howard.
Yeah, one of the drafters of the Civil Rights Act of 1866 and one of the ratifiers of the 14th Amendment Citizenship Clause of 1868.
And then the clause was establishing no new right, declaring no new principle. This comes from Representative Wilson, who was also a co-author of it, and that the clause applied only to those not owing allegiance to anyone else. Senator Trumbull. So again, what we're saying is, very clearly, it seems to me, that if the parents owe allegiance, any kind of allegiance, to another entity other than the United States, then their child being born here is not born a citizen. The child, according to the Elk versus Wilkins case and these people we've just quoted here, what we're talking about is total loyalty and allegiance to this country. If that's the nature of the parents, then their child being born here is a citizen.
Thus, the congressional debate that we just talked about indicated that the Citizenship Clause was not intended to confer citizenship on U.S.-born children whose parents were foreign aliens.
Absolutely, we have authority all over the place, consistent with what Senator Howard, the Slaughterhouse case, the Elk versus Wilkins case. That authority is replete. It's complete, and we're going to find out next week about this case called the Wong Kim Ark case, 1898 case, that is clearly, according to most scholars, an outlier and should be dismissed. And as the Mr. Walton says here very clearly, the court, meaning the Supreme Court, could conclude that the Citizenship Clause does not confer such birthright citizenship without overturning any of its precedents. So the Supreme Court could very easily say the Citizenship Clause of the 14th Amendment is not automatic citizenship, but it is dictated by the Slaughterhouse case, Senator Howard and his buddies there in the Congress in 1868, Elk versus Wilkins, etc. So we have plenty of precedent.
Well,
and the Supreme Court does not have to overrule any of it.
Speaking of precedent, I mean, if we are to believe that from the argument from the left and others that the subject to the jurisdiction thereof clause in the Citizenship Clause is superfluous, then why did the United States Congress then pass the Indian Citizenship Act of 1924? Because before then, Native Americans were subject to their own sovereignty of their tribal lands.
That's exactly right. And it's a very good point, Mike, because again, what the 14th Amendment Citizenship Clause was basically excluding certain Indians from being citizens. That's the Elk versus Wilkins case. However, when we did finally pass a law to citizenize, if you will, American Indians, why would that would have been redundant in and of itself if the American Indians were already citizens? Very good point, Mike.
Thank you very much. 100%. I mean, it's they put that in there for a reason, folks. I mean, these were smart people, smart guys who were drafting, the 14th, 15th, all the amendments for that matter. And they wouldn't, like you said, Richard, these guys, studied logic, they studied Latin, they studied the law. They would use those rules of construction.
This is why we have special rules over and above grammar, regular English grammar for us. These so-called rules, canons of construction, meaning this is how we look at words that others have written on legal documents. When we are interpreting those words, we go by these canons of ethics, canons of construction.
Absolutely. Stick around, you guys. And like Richard said, we're going to talk about Wong Kim Ark exclusively next week. But stick around. We got more birthright citizenship and news of the Ninth Circuit. Stay with us.
This is baseball's Ron Say. Nowadays, it seems like nothing is built to last. Phones, appliances, cars, computers, but the new Michelin Defender 2 tire is designed to outlast. With a quiet and comfortable ride, you will have the confidence you need on the roads, whether they're wet or dry. So goodbye to the short-lived and hello to something that lasts. Get your set of Michelin Defender 2 tires at Hank's Tires, 19951 Ventura Boulevard in Woodland Hills. Call my buddy Steve Goldberg at 818-340-4200. That's 818-340-4200. Hank's Tires is also built to last. Hank opened Hank's Tires in 1953, and we are the oldest tire and auto repair shop in the San Fernando Valley with 100% customer satisfaction. Hank's is AAA approved for all of your auto repair needs. Call Hank's Tires at 818-340-4200 and tell them Ron Say sent you.
You order a glass of your favorite Cabernet, fresh asparagus, hollandaise on the side, a filet, medium rare. You unfurl your napkin with a flair, close your eyes, and prepare to listen. Ah, there it is. The sweet music you long to hear. The sizzle. The sizzle of a Ruth's Chris steak.
The most magnificent corn-fed prime beef, broiled to perfection at 1,800 degrees. Some call it a sizzle. We call it an anthem.
As the waiter approaches, you think, is this one mine or that one?
Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. Like Ruth always said, life's too short to eat anywhere else.
Make a reservation online at ruthschris.com or by calling 800-544-0808.
And we are back in the Legal Lounge. Thank you, sir, for spending some time with us. All past and previous sessions are available on YouTube and Rumble. Find CRN Digital Talk on both those platforms. We're also available as a podcast, crntalk.com/podcaster. And as always, check out Richard's fantastic book, America, An Illusion of Freedom. It's available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, and on iTunes. So we have some news out of the Ninth Circuit. The Ninth Circuit upholds an injunction against the particular citizenship order, the executive order number 14160, which sought to deny birthright citizenship to children born in the United States to parents who are temporary or unlawfully present. So Richard, give us the brief rundown here.
Now, in a ruling divided along partisan lines, the Ninth Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals, that is the most appealed, overruled circuit there happens to be, on Wednesday upheld a nationwide preliminary injunction blocking President Trump his executive order revoking birthright citizenship. What's new? Finding state plaintiffs. That's important. The state plaintiffs had standing to challenge it, but the panel dismissed individual claims in the case due to a related class action pending in New Hampshire. The decision is the first ruling by a federal appellate court on birthright citizenship.
Yeah, of course, why the states are plaintiffs here is important about that nationwide injunctions.
Absolutely.
Because previously when we talked about the end of nationwide injunctions coming from the Supreme Court not long ago, that the state issue was a little bit different from individualized plaintiffs regarding nationwide injunctions versus class actions. But we have a new friend, or a longstanding friend of the show. Judge Patrick J. Bumate, and he wrote a blistering dissent in this case. This case is titled State of Washington v. Trump, but it's about 34 states, actually, that were enjoined here. And he goes through point by point why this decision is patently false. And the first one I think is very important. He talks about standing. Bumate argued that states failed to demonstrate concrete or particularized injuries sufficient to establish Article 3 standing. He viewed the alleged harms, such as administrative burdens or potential, underline potential, loss of federal reimbursements as speculative, underline speculative, and did not directly traceable to the executive order. Your thoughts?
Well, and there's quite an abundance of good arguments by Justice Bumate. One of them I just realized again is his words now, merely by hypothesizing downstream fiscal effects, states could enjoy near automatic access to federal court while other litigants face exacting hurdles. He wrote, such asymmetry threatens to convert states into de facto general public interest plaintiffs, drawing Article 3 courts into political contests we were never meant to referee. So yes, he's saying if in this particular case, whatever the president does with an EO, that's going to have this negative impact on us, that is the state, in the future. And therefore, we can have the injunction as we please. And what he is saying is, first of all, it's speculation. We're talking about in the future. So it really does not qualify for standing. And second, you are in control, in the words he uses here. He says the state plaintiffs lack standing and that their injuries are too contingent and dependent on their own future actions. That couldn't be more in the essence of dynamite than I've read in a long time.
Well, Richard, I mean, I can't walk into a civil court and petition the court saying that, hey, I need to get a judgment because I think I might be hit by a car.
Yeah.
I haven't been hit by a car yet. I have no injury, therefore I have no standing.
That's right. And not only that, but maybe there's a way you could avoid being hit by a car by just staying home, maybe.
Yeah, staying home. We're following the law. We're not driving drunk or something like that. We talked about his opposition to nationwide relief after the Trump v. CASA, and he cautioned that against granting nationwide injunctions based on individual or associated standing.
Okay. Put it in that long list of the Ninth Circuit being reversed again by the Supreme Court.
I'll mark that down exactly. And then you get into something that we spoke about earlier in the show, the constitutional interpretation of the 14th Amendment. And this is he really hits the nail on the head. He talks about textual and historical ambiguity. While the majority held that the executive order clearly violated the 14th Amendment Citizenship Clause, Bumate contended that the constitutional text, and specifically the subject to the jurisdiction thereof, has been historically debated and is not as unequivocal as the majority claimed.
That's right. Absolutely. And again, that's the problem with, what we talked about in the show prep many times, that one of the rumors running around in the hallways in law school was the law is what is boldly asserted and plausibly maintained. So that could be followed by the two letters BS. Because, again, if you have attorneys who are sharp, and maybe a judge who is not quite as sharp as the attorneys, you can convince a judge that the law is A when in fact it isn't, and then you proceed from there.
Yeah, and then you go.
And that's kind of what's happening here with this, if you're born here, you're a citizen. That is baloney. We all know that the authority is counter to that, but we still have people in this country, credentialed people, I might add, who are still pushing for automatic birthright citizenship, which was never intended.
He also suggested that the judiciary should defer to the political branches on complex immigration and citizenship questions, especially when the constitutional interpretation is not settled.
Absolutely. I mean, the guy is right on, Mr. Justice Bumate. He's my boy.
Yeah, he's a new friend of the show. All right, stick around, you guys. We'll be right back right after the break to wrap things up. As always, check out all past and previous sessions available at YouTube, Rumble as a podcast. Find CRN Digital Talk on all those platforms. And also Richard's fantastic book, American Illusion of Freedom, is available on Amazon.com and on iTunes.
By the way, the 4th edition is just out.
4th edition, hot off the
Yes.
presses. You can also email them if you prefer.
It is the best. I'm telling you, it's the best.
PRES37TH@AOL.com. And all that information is, if you're watching on YouTube, in the description below. Stay with us.
You're experiencing pain, back pain, shoulder, elbow, or hand pain, pain from a sports injury. If so, schedule a visit with Dr. Michael Sheps, the leading expert in laser therapy for pain management. Call 310-873-4422 or go to drsheps.com. Experience Epic T, the breakthrough laser therapy system that Dr. Sheps developed to make you pain-free in less time. Laser therapy is a non-invasive, safe, and effective in-office procedure that penetrates deep into your skin without damaging the tissue. It perfectly targets areas of pain to promote fast, natural healing. Relax your muscles, ease muscle spasms, joint stiffness, and arthritis pain while increasing blood circulation. For over 25 years, Dr. Sheps has helped Olympic athletes and sports enthusiasts alike get back in the game. Schedule your visit with Dr. Sheps at his Brentwood office in California. Call 310-873-4422 or visit drsheps.com. That's DRSHEPS.com. 310-873-4422. The Kahanapali Beach Resort on Maui is open, and we are welcoming guests. All properties are taking reservations now. Come visit. Go to kahanapaliresort.com. Experience Kahanapali Beach Resort on the tropical west side of Maui, just a short drive from the airport. All highways are open, a collection of relaxing resort properties, our award-winning beach, delectable dining, world-class restaurants, and activities for everyone: snorkeling, surfing, sailboating, water sports of all kinds, beach and ocean dining, stargazing, beautiful sunsets every night, golf, sun, fun, food, wine, and all in paradise. Visit Kahanapali Beach Resort on Maui. Relax. Reservations are now available. Start with a visit to kahanapaliresort.com. That's KAANAPALI resort.com. The Kahanapali Beach Resort is waiting for you.
Attention, those of you looking to go on a fun vacation and see the world on the cheap. Today, the U.S. dollar is worth even more in other countries, so there's never been a better time to travel outside the USA. The dollar is worth over $1.30 in Canadian dollars, and it's the same for Australia. You can fly there today and have fun and maximize your travel dollar. Your U.S. dollar is worth over $3 in Brazilian reals, and it's worth over $18 in Mexican pesos. Plus, in Argentina, it's worth over $27 in Argentine pesos. Just think of the bargains you'll get. And the way you get the cheapest airfare to any destination is by calling Tickets That Cheap. Save up to 75% on your foreign vacation tickets. Don't wait. Call now.
802-317-1979. 802-317-1979. 802-317-1979. That's 802-317-1979.
And we are back in Legal Lounge. Thank you so much for joining us. And I should say, I mean, we're not completely anti-immigration on this show.
Oh, absolutely not.
No, we know plenty of people have come to this country and have had great success and have contributed not only to themselves, their own welfare, but to the welfare of others and society at large. What we don't like is illegal immigration.
Exactly.
The lawlessness of that. I think it's a bad precedent. But, you know, if you want to come to this country and do it the right way, like so many people Richard and I, you and I know or are friends with, you got to get a green card.
Absolutely.
And you got to be careful about, because there's some rule changes going on. And so just be careful about that. And so what do we have here about these green cards and red flags, Richard?
Very interesting segue into the article.
You like that?
Mike,
Thank
yes. Anyway, there is what is called a Form I-485, I for immigration, of course. It's an application that intending immigrants must file in order to apply for permanent residency and receive their green card. I understand that's not even green, but anyway, they call it green card.
It's not green anymore? It used to be green.
Okay. The form lists standard questions regarding the applicant's background, information, address history, employment history, marital status, and asks security questions regarding arrests, and any other trouble with the law. However, now it goes on to say that the United States Citizens Immigration Services, that's the USCIS, is now taking a closer look at the public charge section, which is questions 56 to 66 under the Trump administration. These questions are tricky, and it is important for practitioners moving forward to treat this section of the form with extra precision and care, since USCIS is placing greater scrutiny on the public charge issue. So, Mike,
the public charge issue, of course, those particular questions has to do with whether individuals applying for a visa, green card, or entry to the United States is likely to become dependent on government assistance for subsistence and therefore excludable. The concept is rooted in the Immigration Nationality Act, which allows immigration officials to use their discretion to deny admission or adjustment of statuses to individuals deemed likely to become a public charge.
Yes. Now, there's something else, too, here on the article, that there are people who are exempt from this form, and those are for potential applicants who are filling out the new form. Some classes of immigrants are exempt from this section. These include applicants under the Violence Against Women's Act, VAWA, the U Visa, and the Cuban Adjustment Act. Now, again, we're not going to go into detail why they are exempt, but they are. But again, this article was written basically by attorneys for other attorneys whose possible interest is in helping people obtain their green cards. I have no problem with that. The show has no problem with that.
Yeah.
They're going about it the right way. What does come to mind, though, is what is the status of these people right now? They don't have green cards, but I assume they're here legally as maybe a student visa or some such nature, such that they're probably not subject to being deported while they're waiting.
Yeah.
I would think they're probably here on a visa.
That's why, I mean, going back to what we said about, legal immigration versus illegal immigration, because, it's not about nativism or anything like that. It's about, first of all, it's obeying laws of the land. And also, you need to come out of the shadows. Like, if people are undocumented who are here illegally, they're not going to fill out these forms. They're going to go into the shadows. They're going to be highly exploitable by others around them. And that's why I think it's important that, legal immigration we're in favor of. Illegal immigration, I think, is dangerous. Richard, we're out of time. Thank you very much.
Oh, that's a fast 5 minutes.
Yeah, it went by fast, right? Yeah, it went by fast today.
You did such a great job, Mike.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Make sure to come back next week. We're going to talk about the Wong Kim Ar case, because that thing is really, really important moving forward. So once again, check out Richard's fantastic book, America, An Illusion of Freedom. It's available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, and on iTunes. Email him, folks, PRES37TH@AOL.com. And check out our complete archives available on Rumble and YouTube. Find CRN Digital Talk on both those platforms. And we'll see you guys next week here in the Legal Lounge.